When a man truly sees your value, you don't have to fight for space in his life. He makes space. You don't have to beg for his time, attention, or presence. He shows up even when it's inconvenient, even when life gets messy, even when it would be easier to choose comfort over commitment. Because when you matter to someone deeply, their actions align with their words. They no longer make you an option, they treat you like a priority. You become a part of how they move, not just someone they visit emotionally when it suits them. See, a man who values you understands that presence is more powerful than promises. He doesn't just say, I'll be there for you. He is there for you. In the middle of a hectic day, he still checks in. When you're valuable to him, your needs don't become burdens. They become opportunities. Opportunities for him to show up, to lead, to support, to protect. He doesn't get defensive when you express your feelings. He leans in. He wants to understand, not argue. He doesn't look for excuses to avoid accountability. He looks for ways to build trust, brick by brick, because he knows your emotional safety is sacred. And he's not just responsible for loving you, he's responsible for protecting what you two are building together. Some women have been conditioned to believe that asking for time, attention, or emotional presence is too much. But the truth is, the right man, one who values you, won't make you feel like you're asking for the world. He'll see those needs as the basics of love, not extras. He won't leave you unread. He won't cancel plans without care. He won't show up late in your life expecting you to still be available. Because when a man values a woman, he moves with urgency, not delay, with intention, not confusion, with clarity, not excuses. And let's be honest, life happens. Schedules clash, emergencies arise. But when you're important to him, you'll feel the effort, you'll feel the attempt, the communication, the respect. Even when he can't be physically present, he'll make sure you're emotionally covered. That's what makes the difference. It's not about being perfect, it's about being purposeful. He chooses you not just with words, but with choices, over and over again. And don't forget this, the man who sees your worth will protect his place in your life. He won't risk losing you to laziness, inconsistency, or pride. He knows what he has, and he treats you like a rare treasure, not something replaceable, but something sacred. Because when you are truly valuable to him, he understands that access to you is a privilege, not a right, and he will show up. Not just when it's convenient, but especially when it's not. That's when love proves itself, not in comfort, but in commitment. Because the real measure of love isn't how someone shows up when it's easy. It's how they show up when it's hard. When a man truly values a woman, he doesn't just let her speak. He listens deeply and intentionally. He doesn't just wait for his turn to talk. He's present, grounded, and tuned into the emotions behind her words. There's a sacred difference between hearing and listening. And when you're important to him, that difference becomes clear. You're not speaking into a void. You're speaking into a heart that cares, a mind that remembers, and a soul that responds. He listens to the stories you've told 1,000 times and still smiles like it's the first. He remembers the little details you didn't think he caught. Your favorite song when you're sad, the way you like your tea, the things you fear but never say out loud. Because he's not just collecting information, he's learning you. When a man is emotionally connected to you, your words are not background noise. They are valuable insight into your inner world. and to him that world is worth understanding. In moments of joy, he listens because he wants to share in your happiness. In moments of pain, he listens because he wants to help carry the weight. He doesn't brush things off, minimize your experiences, or tell you to calm down. He honors your emotions. He knows that being emotionally present is not weakness, it's strength. And not just strength, but leadership. Because a real man leads not just by providing, but by creating emotional safety. He doesn't weaponize your vulnerability. He doesn't use your words against you later. He respects your openness because he sees it as a gift, not a weakness. He knows that when a woman opens her heart, she's not just talking, she's trusting. And trust is not given, it's earned. So he proves with his actions that he can hold your heart gently. He doesn't rush to fix everything. Sometimes he simply holds space because sometimes what you need isn't a solution, it's understanding. And here's the thing, a woman who is truly listened to begins to speak differently. She stands taller, loves deeper, and becomes more confident in herself and the relationship. Because when her voice is valued, her worth is affirmed. And a man who values you wants that for you. He wants you to feel seen, heard, and safe to be your full self, flaws, feelings, and all. When you're valuable to him, he doesn't just listen when it's convenient or when there's something in it for him. He listens when you're struggling to find the words. He listens when your silence is screaming. He listens between the lines, reading the energy in your voice, the pain in your pauses, and the joy in your laughter. And most of all, he listens without judgment. He listens with compassion, with curiosity, and with care. Listening is love in action, and real love doesn't look away when things get deep. It leans in, it pays attention, it learns you over and over again. Because when a man listens to a woman with presence, it's not just communication, it's connection. It's not just hearing, it's honoring. And that's the difference between a man who's just passing time with you and one who truly sees you as valuable. Because love that lasts isn't loud, it's listening. When a man truly sees your worth, he naturally begins to protect your peace. He becomes intentional about the energy he brings into your life. He's not just showing up with flowers and promises. He's showing up with emotional maturity, self-awareness, and the conscious desire to bring stability, not chaos. Because when you are valuable to a man, your peace becomes his priority. You'll start to notice it in the way he speaks to you. His tone is not sharp, not dismissive, not rooted in ego. Instead, it's gentle, respectful, and filled with care. He doesn't raise his voice just to win an argument. He doesn't belittle you to feel bigger. He doesn't use silence as a weapon or conflict as a tool for control. He knows that when you feel emotionally safe, you thrive, and he wants to be the reason you flourish, not the reason you break down. Protecting your peace also means he's mindful of the environments he brings you into. He doesn't expose you to messy situations, gossip, or unnecessary drama. He sets boundaries with others even when you're not around because he's guarding your spirit. He understands that emotional turbulence is not love, it's dysfunction, and he refuses to let you carry what is not yours to bear. When you are important to him, he does not disturb your mental or emotional balance for the sake of his convenience. This kind of man knows that peace is sacred. He doesn't take lightly the fact that you built yourself up after life's storms. He doesn't come into your world swinging his own emotional baggage around with no accountability. Instead, he's constantly doing the inner work to ensure that when he comes to you, he's not bringing a storm, he's bringing shelter. And if he does slip up, he owns it. He apologizes without excuses. He doesn't deflect, deny, or delay growth, because growth, to him, is a form of love. Protecting your peace also means honoring your space. A man who values you isn't always trying to fill the silence with his voice or his needs. He gives you room to breathe, to think, to create, to rest. He understands that your life is not meant to be consumed. It's meant to be respected. So he doesn't guilt you when you need time alone. He doesn't make you feel bad for having boundaries. In fact, he celebrates them because he knows boundaries are not rejection, they're self-respect. And you'll know he's protecting your peace by how you feel when he's around. Your body won't tense up. Your mind won't be racing, preparing for emotional damage control. Instead, you'll feel calm, not because everything is perfect, but because you know you're safe. You know he won't manipulate your emotions or gaslight your experiences. You know he's not trying to win against you. He's trying to win with you. There is power in a love that brings peace instead of pressure. A man who values you knows this. He's not trying to keep you on edge so you'll chase his validation. He's not playing games to keep you insecure. He's choosing to be consistent, clear, and kind because that's what you deserve. So if he shields your spirit, calms your storms, and becomes a place of emotional rest, understand this. You are more than a convenience to him. You are a priority. And a man who protects your peace protects your value. When a man values you deeply, one of the most powerful signs is that he listens, not just with his ears, but with his heart. He hears the words you say, but more importantly, he tunes in to the meaning behind them. He pays attention to your emotions, your fears, your passions, and the subtle shifts in your tone that reveal what you're not saying out loud. Because when you truly matter to someone, they want to understand you. They want to be present for the story of who you are. Listening is not just waiting for your turn to speak. It's not hearing words and offering empty nods. It's the way he leans in when you talk, how he remembers the little things you thought he forgot, like how you take your coffee, the story you told about your childhood, the book you said changed your life, or how you get quiet when something's wrong. He doesn't need constant reminders because he holds what matters to you as sacred. He's not memorizing facts. He's learning you. When a man listens deeply, he doesn't interrupt to shift the conversation back to himself. He doesn't make your pain about his past or your joy about his achievements. Instead, he creates a space where your voice feels safe. You don't have to shout to be heard. You don't have to explain yourself over and over. You don't have to minimize your feelings just to keep the peace. He listens with the intention to honor, not to fix, control, or dismiss. This kind of listening isn't reserved for the big dramatic moments. It happens in the quiet ones too. When you're venting about your day, unsure if it even matters. When you mention a dream you haven't dared to chase yet. When your body language says more than your words. He notices and he responds with presence. That presence says, I see you, I hear you, you matter. And that kind of listening, that's rare, that's sacred, that's love. When you're valuable to him, Your needs are not treated as burdens. Your desires are not met with resistance. He listens because he wants to align his actions with your well-being. He listens because he wants to grow with you, not around you. He listens because your voice echoes in the chambers of his life, reminding him that your connection is not something to take for granted. It's something to nurture with humility and care. Sometimes it's not even about responding. It's about holding space. A man who listens will let you cry without rushing to end the discomfort. He'll let you be silent without forcing words. He'll let you unravel without trying to put you back together on his terms. He trusts your process, respects your journey, and doesn't try to shape you into someone more convenient for his comfort. Because listening is also about honoring your right to be fully human. When a man sees you as valuable and deeply important to him, one of the clearest signs is his willingness to make sacrifices, not out of obligation, but from genuine devotion. Sacrifice in this context doesn't mean grand dramatic gestures all the time. Sometimes it's about the little things that reveal how much he prioritizes your peace, your joy, and your growth. Because love that holds value is love that makes room. It's in the way he rearranges his schedule when you're going through something. It's how he chooses presence over convenience. Maybe he cancels a night out with friends because he knows you need his support. Maybe he travels across town just to spend an hour with you after a long day. Maybe he listens to a story you've told before, because this time the pain in your voice is different. These aren't duties for him. These are investments in something sacred. Sacrifice isn't always about giving things up. It's often about giving things forward, offering his time, energy, or resources, not for validation, but because your well-being is his concern. He doesn't keep score. He's not looking for applause. A man who's emotionally invested in you will also sacrifice his pride when it threatens the relationship. He'll choose humility over ego. He won't always need to be right. He'll care more about staying close. And if he messes up, he doesn't hide behind excuses or withdraw into silence. He steps up, apologizes sincerely, and does the work to rebuild trust. That's emotional maturity. That's love showing up in action. Sometimes the sacrifices aren't even visible to you. They're in the background choices he makes that you never asked for. Like choosing not to entertain certain distractions or behaviors because he honors what you both share. Like changing how he speaks, listens, or responds because he knows your heart deserves gentleness. Like growing out of old habits, not because you forced him, but because your presence inspired him to rise higher. You see, when you're truly valuable to him, he doesn't feel diminished by sacrifice. He feels elevated by it. Because in his eyes, you are a woman of substance, a woman worth showing up for, worth shifting for, worth stretching for. And he doesn't see his sacrifices as losses. He sees them as alignment, a way of creating space for a love that doesn't just survive, but expands. This is not about losing himself. A man who sacrifices in love doesn't erase who he is, he evolves because he understands that deep connection requires a giving spirit, not a transactional mindset. He's not counting what he gave up. He's focused on what he's building with you. He's not trying to impress you with what he's lost. He's showing you what he's willing to offer. So when a man consistently shows up with a willingness to compromise, to grow, to shift, and to give without resentment, that is not to be taken lightly. It's not weakness, it's strength. It's not desperation, it's devotion. It means he's not just here for the highlight reel. He's here for the depth, for the days when love requires effort, for the moments when connection requires courage. And that courage to sacrifice, to stretch, to serve something greater than self is one of the deepest signs that you are cherished, respected, and truly valued. When a man truly sees your worth, he won't just express it in words. He'll include you in his future, not as a placeholder or an afterthought, but as an essential part of what's next for him. When you're valuable to a man, he begins to plan with you in mind. You'll notice the shift not just in his tone, but in his actions, because his commitment becomes forward focused. It's no longer about just enjoying the present. It's about building something lasting. He'll start talking about things beyond the moment, not just what are we doing this weekend, but where do you see yourself living in 5 years? How do you feel about raising a family? What kind of legacy do you want to leave behind? These aren't questions to pass the time. They're invitations, invitations into his vision, invitations into his decisions. And more than that, they are signs that he's mentally and emotionally creating space for you in the world he's shaping. This isn't about rushing into commitment or laying out a 5-year plan on your second date. It's about emotional inclusion. You'll begin to notice how you're naturally woven into his conversations about the future. How I becomes we. How the word someday turns into when we. It could be as simple as him saving money for a shared goal, or as intentional as him adjusting his career decisions so they align with your shared vision of life. And even more powerful, he starts considering how his choices affect you. Before he makes a big decision, he asks for your thoughts. Not because he's unsure of himself, but because your opinion holds weight. Because he respects the fact that his path is now connected to yours, and he wants to walk in step with you, not ahead or behind. That's alignment. That's partnership. A man who truly values you doesn't just want you around for the good times, he wants to build with you. Build a life, a vision, a future that reflects both your strengths. He's not just chasing experiences, he's choosing intention. And that intention will reflect in how he treats your dreams, your boundaries, your goals. He won't ask you to shrink so he can rise. He'll look for ways to rise with you. You might notice how he begins to talk more about legacy, about what kind of man he wants to be, not just for himself, but for you, for a family, for a community. Because when a man truly values a woman, she becomes a mirror for his purpose. She sharpens his vision, not distracts from it. She makes him want to show up differently, more fully, more authentically. That's how you know you're not just loved, you're seen, not for what you offer temporarily, but for the light you bring long term. He doesn't just plan his days around you. He plans his direction around what he sees growing between you both. That kind of emotional investment cannot be faked. It's steady, it's clear, and it's rooted in deep connection. So if you find yourself beside a man who includes you in his future, who doesn't hesitate to talk about what comes next with you by his side, understand this: you are not just important to him, you are essential. You are not just desired, you are chosen.